Today we'll be taking a look at some stories with Finn, Bray Wyatt, and much more information on NXT's entire new makeover. For today's question of the day, what are your thoughts on the 12 recently released NXT superstars? Was that another big loss for WWE? Let us know what you're thinking below. Let's start things off with Finn. Since returning to the main roster, Finn has been highly featured on Smackdown and appears to be starting a program up with Roman Reigns. We talked a few days ago about how smiley main roster Finn has to go, and well, Finn himself addressed that on SmackDown. He said that a few years ago, he would have smiled and laughed off what happened, and that this Finn still wants Roman Reigns, and even mentioned how he'll go through John Cena as well. Finn then had a great showing where he nearly fought off the entire bloodline by himself, but eventually the numbers advantage was just too much for him and caught up with him in the end. But still, it was a great showing for Finn, and this main roster run already seems to be at a better place than his last few runs on the main roster. The character seems focused and determined to become Universal Champion again. Finn taking back the Universal title already has a great story to it. He was obviously the first ever Universal Champion back in 2016, but an injury robbed him of having his reign as champion and had to relinquish the title less than 24 hours later. So the story of the first ever Universal Champion getting the title that he never lost back in his possession is a great story to build on for sure. Sure, Finn had that one Universal title match with Brock a few years back, but he was never really highly featured in the world title scene after that injury. So he has a lot to be angry about. Something that a lot of people are starting to mention more and more is the demon version of Finn. Will we ever get to see that side of his character again? The last time that the demon made an appearance was mid-2019. After the last demon appearance, Finn would go back to NXT, turn heel, win the NXT title, but never brought back the demon. This led to a lot of questions about the demon's future. Is he done for good? Well, Finn was actually asked if the demon has a future or more story to tell in WWE, and he answered by saying that he's focused on this new Prince side of his character, but that he's sure they'll revisit the demon later on. The demon version of Finn debuted in WWE just around 6 years ago, had a little over a dozen matches, and still remains undefeated. So no matter how many losses regular Finn has, can't take that fact away that his alter ego is still on a 6-year undefeated streak. That's unbelievably impressive. So even though we haven't seen this side of Finn in over 2 years, he still sounds like he's very sure we'll see it again in the future. Some fans are discussing what will happen if the demon is the one that takes on Roman Reigns. And that's actually very interesting. With Roman Reigns' year-long reign getting longer and longer by the day, it's hard to name credible superstars who would be worthy of dethroning him as champion. Very hard to name some superstars who actually have a shot of knocking Roman down. Maybe it's Jimmy or Jay, maybe it's Big E, but the Demon is also a nice credible superstar to knock Roman off. The Demon was the one that won that title first, so it's just a great narrative if the Demon is also the one to put an end to this historic dominant Universal title reign. Speaking of the Demon, reports also claim that The Fiend vs. the Demon was actually being discussed to take place in early to mid-2020. It was allegedly something that was mentioned and brought up, but reports claimed that it was the pandemic that really ruined the plans for Fiend vs. Demon. It's highly unfortunate that we never got to see that matchup. We did see the Fiend vs. Ordinary Finn, but obviously Finn was missing his alter ego, so that was really a one-sided fight. It would have been interesting to see how the Fiend and the Demon would have played out though, especially if the Goldberg loss never happened, and you have the Fiend and the Demon going into this match with each other, both being undefeated. Their undefeated streaks on the line, maybe a world title on the line, and this matchup really could have headlined any WWE event. Finn also mentioned in that interview that he feels like he has 5+ years left in the tank to wrestle. So time isn't running out quite yet for Finn, but it'll still be great to see him involved with bigger and better storylines over these next few years. Let's go over the latest updates on all things Bray Wyatt related. There was a new report that came out this week that talked about how the close connection between Bray Wyatt's family and Cody Rhodes' family could lead to Wyatt joining AEW. AEW was already the favorite to land Bray Wyatt before this report even came out, but now you throw in the fact that there could be close connections there, and it does make more sense. AEW stars messed with the fans and joked about the possibilities of AEW actually landing some of these former stars with a backstage picture of them all wearing Easter eggs and references to WWE superstars. There was a Cookie Monster shirt, which was supposed to be referring to CM Punk. They had on a Ric Flair robe to joke about the idea of AEW signing Ric Flair. There was even some Hawaiian shirts in the picture, of course a reference to NXT Bray Wyatt, and even more Easter eggs throughout that picture. Even though that they're just messing around and being funny, AEW is still a favorite to land some of those big stars like Bray Wyatt. So it'll be very interesting to see that be played out. Speaking of Bray Wyatt, Chelsea Green was recently under fire from WWE fans for a simple tweet that she put out after Bray's release. Chelsea posted a picture of herself with a caption of, "Me waiting for Bray Wyatt to come to the dark side." That picture and caption really angered some fans for whatever reason, and Chelsea acknowledged those fans on Twitter and in a recent interview with Ring the Bell, where she addressed it as cancel culture. "I'm forever canceled. Someone is always trying to cancel me. I don't like feeding into the cancel culture, so I try not to respond. But I tweeted something nice and supportive, and people are taking it so negatively. The irony of it is that two men in the industry, if not more, tweeted almost the exact same thing and were not canceled. At the end of the day, I know that Bray Wyatt is somebody who I've had personal conversations with, who I like. His wife is someone who I have personal conversations with, who I like. So I know that they know what I mean, and that's really what matters, is that I support him." So that was Chelsea's argument. She says there were a few male talent that tweeted the same thing about Bray that she did, and no one came after them. In other news, WWE has just released 12 more superstars from NXT. The three biggest names on this list being Bronson Reed, Mercedes Martinez, and Bobby Fish. Triple H went trending after these releases were confirmed, with a lot of fans wondering what was going on. Well, according to some newly released reports, we may have an idea. There's apparently plans to give NXT a big makeover, both visually and in the locker room. There's rumors of them not wanting old talent on NXT's roster. They allegedly want new faces, young talent, and want to bring a whole new presentation and vibe to NXT. New stage, new ramp, new logo, new everything, just to start fresh, it seems like. So maybe that's what's going on with these releases. Some of the released superstars from this list were over 40 years old, so maybe it's something about the older talent out and bringing in the new. But it's still very hard to tell, and nothing has been confirmed as of this moment. But what are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave your comments. Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.